Today on The Young and the Restless, Elena plots her next move. Ashley wants to convene the board and Victoria and Nate seal the deal. At the Abbott mansion, an unshaven Tucker, in his robe, has a coffee tray with a red rose ready, and is surprised to see Ashley dressed for work. She tells him if he wants to catch her before work, he'll have to get up earlier. He complains that his room is all the way down the hall. She tells him they'll discuss it later. They kiss and she leaves. Jack emerges from the study and Tucker grins. Good morning, coffee. In Los Angeles, Nate sits in a cafe and looks at a photo of Elena on his phone. He sends a text. In a hotel suite, Victoria reads a text from Nate saying he's found a table downstairs. She tells him she's on her way, checks herself in the mirror, and heads out. At Crimson Lights, Elena tells Audra she's relieved. Things are finally getting better between Nate and me. She talks about where she and her boyfriend might go on their trip together. She confesses that Nate just told her to pick a place last night and left her a note on her pillow, reminding her to plan their dream vacation. She shouldn't have doubted Nate when he told her she was his priority. Elena feels it's up to her to trust him. She's sure he's focused on making deals in LA. That man really throws himself into his work. Audra muses, he certainly does. Elena senses something and asks, okay, what's wrong with you? Audra asks if Nate told her he was going to LA alone. Elena says yes. Audra replies, well, he didn't. He went with Victoria. In Los Angeles, Victoria gushes to Nate about them being successful beyond anything they'd imagined. She goes over the agenda and bullet points to make sure they're on the same page. Nate's sure they'll dazzle everyone. Victoria really wants to nail this deal. Nate looks her in the eye and says, so do I. At the Abbott mansion, Jack crabs that their family is in crisis and Ashley has dumped Tucker on them. He complains that McCall doesn't know the meaning of the word family. Tucker admits he'd like to be better at that and repair his relationship with Devon. He says Ashley asked him to move in there. Jack informs him she did that to make his life hell. Tucker tells him not everything is about him. He came back to Geno City to show Ashley he was worthy of their love so that they could make a real future together. Jack smirks. After the unending pain you caused her, how did you con her into believing that? Tucker guesses he thinks she's fallen prey to his evil agenda and laughs that that's exactly what Ashley thinks about Jack and Diane. Jack scoffs at Tucker comparing himself to Diane, who has genuinely changed and made amends. She's done the work. You're the same Tucker who screwed over everybody in this town. Tucker offers that he almost died in a car crash. Jack sneers about him supposedly finding his soul in an ashram. The flaw there is that you don't have one. Tucker chuckles. Okay. Not a morning person. Noted. As Jack prepares to leave, Tucker tells him he's truly sorry for what Diane is going through right now. For what it's worth, he doesn't think she's entirely responsible for Phyllis' death. Jack doesn't care what he thinks and warns him against hurting Ashley again. At Jabbat, Ashley tells Billy that Jack has lost his mind over Diane. Billy thinks he's in a tough spot and suggests they take it easy on him. Ashley complains he's defending a murderer. Billy warns her about saying the CEO's fiancé is a murderer. Ashley says, sorry, murderess. She says it's a PR nightmare and suggests they try to do something before the Jack and Diane show. Tanks the company completely. Billy feels Jabbat has faced worse. Ashley argues this is just the beginning. Jack is doing nothing to get ahead of the explosion that's going to happen when Diane goes to travel. I'm warning you, we need to make moves to protect our company before it's too late. Climate change, development fueling toxic algae. At Crimson Lights, Elena gops. Victoria went to LA. She wonders if perhaps she joined the trip last minute. Audra says the plan was always for them to go together and she thinks Victoria asked him. She explains how he told her all about it yesterday when she offered to go with him. He was hoping she would teach him a few things. I can only imagine the things she'll be teaching him. Audra can't believe the man would lie to Elena's face. What an ass. She fumes about Nate offering a romantic getaway to cover the guilt. Elena tells her to stop. At Jabbat, Ashley tells Billy that Diane always has her own agenda and she wants everything. She's a danger to Jack and to them. He's in no position to be running Jabbat. We need to convene the board and contain Jack. Billy thinks it sounds like she's planning a coup. He argues there's no reason to believe he doesn't have the company's best interests at heart. Ashley fumes that there's every reason to believe it. Billy thinks this is about a lot more than business. At the Abbott mansion, Tucker insists to Jack that he and Ashley are meant to be together. He understands his resistance. He was not a great guy back in the day, but he's dedicated to proving himself to Jack and the other Abbotts. Jack warns he will always protect Ashley. Tucker thinks that's something they have in common. I feel like we bonded. Jack walks out. At Crimson Lights, Audra apologizes to Elena for going off like that, but she just didn't peg Nate for a cheating liar. Elena muses, and I was dumb enough to trust him. She wanted to believe they were going to be okay. So, you think they've been sleeping together all this time? Or is that the reason for this trip? Audra cautions they could be reading too much into this. Elena says regardless of whether or not they've slept together, Nate is a liar. He dangled a dream vacation and got her right where he wanted her, believing in a lie while he's off trying to impress his boss. In Los Angeles, Victoria and Nate discuss swooping in on the streaming platforms. Victoria tells Nate he's very hard to say no to. Nate brings up some more business ideas and she asks if his brain ever stops working. They flirt over a conversation about sleepytime podcasts. Nate confesses he sometimes feels lonely. The people who matter the most to him aren't moving forward with him and don't understand what drives him. Victoria gets it. She can't tell them how good it feels to work with someone she's so in sync with. Nate alludes to making the most of the moment and Victoria smiles. At Society, Michael tells Jack they're sitting in the shadow of a mountain of evidence that points to Diane. Jack wants to be proactive. Michael wonders if he wants to hold a seance and raise Stark from the dead. Jack says they have to pivot. Michael says they have to investigate the hell out of Jeremy Stark. At Jabbat, Ashley denies to Billy that she wants to convene the board to get revenge on Jack. Billy learns that she invited Tucker to move in and rants about him hurting her. What makes you think he's not using her to try and take over this company? Ashley hollers that they're not talking about Tucker, they're talking about Diane, who could tank their company. This woman has incredible influence over our brother. She will establish herself as queen over the Abbott household and the company. Is that what you want? At Society, Michael says that at the present time, they have nothing that ties Stark to Phyllis' murder, so they can't legally access his records, but he knows people who can do it. Jack says, do it. Michael warns that as much as it makes sense to them that scum killed Phyllis, that defense is a tricky path to navigate. Trying to pin it on a dead man won't play well with the jury, and if they don't have irrefutable evidence, Christine will rip them to shreds. Jack is certain they'll find the answers. At Crimson Lights, Audra warns when it comes to getting what she wants, Victoria is shameless. Elena feels like an idiot. Audra says she's not, she's just in love and trying to protect her relationship. Elena doesn't want to be portrayed as a victim. Audra says she knows the truth about Nate. His charm and promises are bull. He's not working to save their relationship, he's actively sabotaging it. In Los Angeles, Victoria admires Nate for being so up-to-date on things. She gazes at him and says, "Lucky Newman Media." Nate keeps talking about work and Victoria decides naming him as CEO of the division was one of the best decisions she ever made. She finds him inspiring. It's intoxicating. She tells him about a book she'd like to show him. It's in her room. He shrugs. Why don't we go together? They head out of the cafe. At Society, Jack fumes as Tucker walks in and complains to Michael that Ashley moved him into the house. His sister is getting revenge for him moving Diane in. Michael urges Jack to remember his priorities. Ashley arrives, eyeballs Jack, and sits with Tucker. Jack tells Michael he can't save his sister from herself. He has to use all of his energy to save Diane. At Crimson Lights, Elena laments that she stood by Nate through all of his struggles. It wasn't enough. All he wanted was power. She still stood by him and tried to remind him of the man he used to be, but power became more important than love or family. In Los Angeles, Nate and Victoria throw the book on the bed and make out in her hotel room. She undoes his shirt and tie. He removes her blouse, and they kiss passionately half-dressed. Nate puts Victoria on the bed to have sex with her. At Crimson Lights, Elena tells Audra that Nate betrayed his family to get what he wants, and it was only a matter of time before he betrayed her too. At society, Ashley complains that Jack will give her indigestion. Tucker advises her to ignore him and tells her he thinks he made a couple inroads with him earlier at the house. Ashley doubts it. Nobody can get through his thick skull. Tucker chuckles. You're in a mood. Ashley says her brother is destroying their family, their company, and their legacy, and she's the only one who sees it. Tucker suggests, let's wake him up. Make him see that he's an idiot. Ashley asks, you still have your sweet. He does. She says, let's go. They stand up and kiss. Across the room, Michael chuckles at Ashley and Tucker's display. You could have sold tickets to that. Jack can't be bothered with that. The woman he loves needs his help. If they can just find the evidence they need. Michael will reach out to his contacts today about security footage and phone records. I'm going to give this my all. Jack says they have to. He's going to do everything he can to help Diane. I don't want this to go to trial. In Los Angeles, Victoria sleeps snuggled up to Nate, who kisses her head and looks over at himself in the mirror with a sheepish expression. At Crimson Lights, Elena tells Audra she's not going to sit back and do nothing, not this time. She offered her an option once. Audra recalls she turned it down. Elena says the circumstances have changed. I think it's time we find GGT Hellstrom.